So a lead is anyone that's interested in buying what we offer. So what most agencies do incorrectly is they try to sell everything to everyone. And it's, as most services businesses, it's like a trap that everyone falls into. If you're getting replies that are saying not interested, so basically there's like a couple different types of replies. If they say you're spam, then yeah, your email's terrible. It's shitty. You need to throw it out. If they say, we already have somebody in-house to do this, or literally anything that's like a sentence, then that means your offer could be wrong.
Hello, Sales Nation. I'm Will Barron, host of the Salesman Podcast, founder of the Sales School, and you're watching the world's biggest B2B sales show, the Salesman Podcast. Let's meet today's guest.
Hey, it's Alex Berman. I run experiment27.com, and I've generated over $1 million in B2B leads.
On this episode of Alex, we're diving into how a lead generation agency, a company that does lead generation for other brands, how they go about driving these leads with cold email, cold outreach, and YouTube. Let's jump right in. We're going to dive into how a lead generation business generates new leads. And just for context, I guess first we'll start with, in the context of your business, Alex, what is a lead?
Sure. So a lead is anyone that's interested in buying what we offer. At Experiment 27, we do marketing for other agencies. Like you said, we're a lead generation company. So a lead for us is an agency, let's say they're between $1 million and 10 million, sometimes up to 15 million in revenue, that is in need of more enterprise clients.
Perfect. That makes total sense. And is there a specific, because we'll dive through a bunch of them, but is there a specific channel, is there a specific pathway that you've hacked that is unintuitive, that works particularly well for you?
Sure. So our two biggest channels right now are cold email, which is also our biggest channel for our customers, and then YouTube. We've been doing YouTube for like 2.5 years now, and both of those are crushing it.
Well, we'll touch on cold email first because that's probably the most practical for the audience, but we'll definitely dive into YouTube towards the end of the show, and that'll keep everyone listening because I'm intrigued and fascinated on that as well. For B2B especially, YouTube seems kind of fascinating. But for cold email, what are you doing different to everyone else? Or let me rephrase this. Are you doing anything different to everyone else? Or are you in the same rat race as most of the audience who are just sending more and more email with less and less customization and essentially just sending more and more spam to try and get that 1 or 2% reply rate?
Oh, yeah. The goal is to spam as hard as possible. We just try to sell. We send 10 times more emails than anyone else. Yeah. So what most agencies do incorrectly is they try to sell everything to everyone. And it's, as most services businesses, it's like a trap that everyone falls into, right? Like, let's say you run a UX or a design company. You might send a cold email that says, hey, we offer UX, UI, front end, back end, like all of these different bullet points for the customer. And then you're used to having them pick what they want. That doesn't work at all in outbound sales, even as a marketing company, even as us. So what we found out works is targeting a specific industry, targeting a specific job title, and then finding an offer that person wants to buy, and then crafting all of your messaging towards that offer for each specific cold email campaign. So for us, those three variables are CEOs at digital agencies or video marketing agencies or marketing agencies, anything like that. CEOs at those kind of agencies, and they want to buy an initial marketing review. So that is all we sell in our first email, and it's all we sell throughout our entire campaign. We want to get that initial sale. Right now, it's about $10,000 for that over a month, and we push everyone towards that. For digital agencies, it's the same way. Whatever that first service is, that first offer is, will depend on the first two variables. But that's what most people get completely wrong about cold email. Once that's figured out, you can write paragraphs, you can break every rule, and you'll still sell stuff.
So, because this seems counterintuitive, and it does to me from interviewing hundreds of people on the subject. It might not to you, Alex, being in the trenches and doing this. But are you saying we should lead with an offer rather than lead with some, and a lot of it is bullshit, value of here's a blog post I think you'll like, or here's this I thought of you, and stuff like that? Should we lead with, hey, I can help you, perhaps this is the price, this is how we can get started?
Maybe not the price. We don't really lead with the price. The way that we do our cold emails, I'll say our subject line, Steli Efti has one called Quick Question that we used to use for a while. Our top performing subject line right now is, I would love to work with company, or I was born to work with, and then the company name. Then we'll say hi, Will, came across the Salesman Red podcast. Really loved the interview you did with Jared Glant, like some custom first sentence. And then we'll pitch ourselves. So like, hey, I'm Alex Berman. I'm the CEO over at Experiment 27, where we've generated over $100 million in leads for digital agencies. Love what you're doing with your agency, but I feel like we could help drive more enterprise clients or help get you more enterprise clients. Would you mind mind hopping on a quick call? I can send over a few times. Literally that simple for a first email. And yeah, it's all money. Like I know coming from the UK, it sounds a little rough. I've sold them to the UK before. They hate talking about money in the first email. But in the US, that's if you tell an agency owner that you can make them more money or you can find them cornerstone clients or whatever is going to light up their brain, then they're going to respond. Yeah, you don't have to send them a blog post or anything.
Okay, so there's three things here, and we'll go through them in order of when you said light up their brain. Do you experiment on this?
The UK. I feel you hurting.
do you experiment on that kind of that one sentence? And I guess if I was writing an email, I'd be wanting to bold it, italic it, because that's the thing that's going to really hook them, right? Is this something that you do A/B testing with or anything like that?
So the first line, and I've tried to systematize this so many times, for agencies, we've got it down where it's basically like, hey, came across agency name and really impressed with the work you did with portfolio item, right? That's great for agency owners. And you can try to get it for other things. But yeah, what I recommend doing is rewriting that first line for literally every email you send. If you're sending 150 cold emails, you're writing that line 150 different times, 150 different ways.
Good, because that's what I'd hoped you to say, and that's why I recommend as well, because that's the quickest way to separate yourself from all the other shite that's coming in people's inboxes, isn't it?
So what's so interesting? When I first got into this, I thought there were millions of variables that made a cold email work. Like it's like I would think it's the name of the person sending it, or the website, or like any number of things. But now it's like, yeah, are those three variables in place? And then it really is, did you customize the first line? It almost doesn't matter what the content of the line is. I was just talking to an outreach manager today, somebody who works at our company, and he was trying to systematize that for the last week. He was sending the same subject line or the same first line out. This week, he started rewriting the subject lines, and his meeting book rate, it was at about 1%, which is so low for us. And it jumped to 5% this week, like literally just changing the first lines. And that's, what is that, 5 times more meetings?
It's mad, and because we think it's it's going to be a lot of time, it's going to be a lot of effort, but I know it isn't. When I'm booking guests or I'm reaching out for potential ad sponsorships or kind of the lead generation and traffic generation that we do on the back end of this for our kind of bigger customers, that line you can bash out 20 of them and you just get in this state of flow and it flows out. It doesn't take that much longer than setting things up in Yesware or kind of outreach or whatever you're doing, and by the time you import a spreadsheet and you mess around, you do all this kind of stuff, you've just done that anyway. So the second thing
it takes a little bit longer, right? So 1-to-1 it takes longer. Of course, you can just hit send on a list of 1,000 versus writing 1,000 first lines. It might take 2-3 minutes, 4 minutes for each first line. But in the long run, you could send 10,000 emails without the custom first lines, or you could send 300 emails and get the same number of meetings. So it all evens out.
It does, and I think we've covered this on the show before as well. Like it evens itself out when you just burnt with one email campaign every single person in your industry that you could possibly have talked to by sending them spam the first time. You get blocked. They don't want to speak to you on the follow up, whatever it is. Versus if you go 300, if you go 30, if you go 25 at a time, at least you've got a chance to respond and get some kind of numbers back before you kind of burn through everyone. So that's a mistake that I see people making, and it's very difficult to come back from without changing company or changing your first sort of name, which is more hassle.
Well, right now we do 50 at a time. So perfect. Especially as we're trying to come up with the variables, like we'll test 50 to a certain title, or we'll test 50 to a certain offer. And yeah, we'll try to get it to a certain place. And even when we're testing subject lines, if we don't get over a 60% open rate, I'm throwing that subject line out at 50 at a time until we can get over 60%.
Cool. Well, the second thing I wanted to dive into was the open rates and subject lines. So you mentioned something that it was one of Stelly FT's, who's been on the show a bunch of times, one of his subject lines I think you'd used in the past, and that wasn't as effective now as it was then. Is this something that you need to continuously work on, in the fact that other people are using similar lines, they just get redundant, people see them more than once and you think you're spamming them? How do we need to kind of rotate and work on our subject lines to keep them fresh and keep those open rates up?
So we use Yesware for sending everything, and that gives you an analytics dashboard. But I think Close.io does this, Mailshake does this, whatever. I'm looking at the send, and our outreach managers are as well. We're looking at the open rate for every 50 sends. So quick question, for instance, I was actually just talking to somebody yesterday where quick question is crushing and they're selling to manufacturers. So it's like, it works there. Some of our clients, company name / and then our company name works really well. So like Salesman Podcast / Experiment 27 works well. And then I was born to work with your company is lower. So that subject line, it's different for each business. It's different for every email you're sending, like whatever. So yeah, we'll test every 50. And if it's under 60%, we're throwing it out. And we can have a list. Like I could sprout out like 100 subject lines right now. We're going to test every single one of those subject lines every single time, because there are certain businesses or certain combinations where those work, and then certain where they don't.
And is this, when they do work, they don't work, is this predictable, or do you find that it is just totally random and so you have to test them?
It's random. So I describe cold email and getting it right kind of as smashing your head against a brick wall over and over again. It literally is like brute forcing a password or something. But as soon as you get it all working, it prints money for your business. So I like seeing that at the end of the tunnel, and I like running at the wall over and over again, trusting the system and knowing it's going to work out. But yeah, I can see how it would be very frustrating for most people.
Yeah, and it's easy to give up, right? After you've done these first few emails, you've tried this, you tried that, you've gone through, if you're doing batches of 50 or whatever, you've done it 4 or 5 times. You can be disheartened by some of this, right? If you
100%.
Yeah.
The way I think about it is it's like finding product market fit for your startup, because it really is. Every time you want to sell a new offer to somebody, you have to identify the customers, you talk to the customer, like you run through the whole process you'd run through if you were doing like lean startup or something. And yeah, your startup's going to fail sometimes. What is that? One in 10 businesses fail. I haven't actually read that in a book anywhere. I feel like I've just heard that, but it's like 1 in 10 cold email campaigns probably going to fail as well. That's why you just got to continually test. That's why we test.
Well, for I know the number, for context, in the UK, 85% of businesses fail within the first 7 years. And clearly these are small companies versus big venture-backed companies in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, that's the percentage of businesses here in the UK. Okay,
yeah,
so Alex,
so it's little bets basically. It's trying to get as many at bats as possible, to use like a sports reference. And yeah, if you're sending to 3,000 people at once, you only really have one shot. If you're sending to 50 people, that could be 100, less than 100. My math is so bad, dude. That could be less than 100 tries.
What do we do, Alex, when we don't get a reply from that first email, but in the context of we've had a good open rate, we have had other replies from other people, so we know that there's something right within the message. There's some, for kind of lean startup perspective, there's some product market fit there. So we know we're totally not crazy and it wasn't some totally shite email that we sent over in the first place. What do we do with everyone that didn't reply to us? How do we follow up to them?
Yeah, so let's talk follow-ups. You were saying that you get good replies. If you're getting replies that are saying not interested, so basically there's like a couple different types of replies. If they say you're spam, then like, yeah, your email's terrible. It's shitty. You need to throw it out. If they say, we already have somebody in-house to do this, or literally anything that's like a sentence, then that means your offer could be wrong. But yeah, for follow-ups, we do 3 follow-ups after the first email. The first one is a simple, and we're doing them all as threaded replies. So basically replies to whatever the previous message is. Some sending tools don't let you do that. Yesware lets you do that, which that's why I like them. So the first email is just a simple like, hey, Mike, I know you're busy. Just wanted to make sure this didn't get buried. 1 sentence email, just bumps it up to the top. The third email is one we call the 2 ideas email. This is what we've been doing recently, which is, this is kind of what we do for our company. It's like, hey, Mike, I just talked to I'll say, hey, Will. Hey, Will, I just talked to the CEO of a major Chicago-based digital agency, and they said they were dealing with the following 2 issues. And it's like, 1, their salesmen aren't hitting their numbers. The problem with that is they're not going out and finding leads. Like when they go to events, it's inconsistent. There's no real lead generation system there. And then 2, their business is overly reliant on referrals. The solution to that is to test new marketing channels and find new customers like that. Would love to, or if you found these interesting, would love to discuss helping you find more enterprise clients. This is what we do all day. Would you mind if I send over a few times for a call? Thanks, Alex. So a little bit of a longer email there. And if you want to have somebody transcribe that, you can. It's a little bit of a longer email there, but it's because there's multiple types of people. So some person is going to see that first email and be like, yeah, I want to grow my business. But then the third email is going to hit a person where it's like, They want more. They want to read more. They want more information before they respond. And then the fourth email is the traditional breakup email, which I've also gotten negative feedback on, but which gets the highest response rate, which is, hey, Will, at this point, I'm going to assume adding more enterprise clients to your agency isn't on the timeline this year. Feel free to reach out if that changes. So simple 4 email sequence. If you're going to do a cold call, I would do it after the second email. Our cold call strategy is calling. Basically, if I was calling for you, Will, I would say I'm the assistant for Will Barron. Or even if I was you, I would just pretend to be your assistant instead of you. That way it doesn't turn into a sales call. And I'm just asking if they've seen the email. Basically, the whole point of a sales call when you're following up for email is literally to get them back in the inbox. So you can get something on the calendar to actually talk about it. We don't try to sell, $100,000 software or whatever on a cold call, which is also another issue a lot of agencies. That's a mistake a lot of agencies make as well.
Well, that's a mistake a lot of salespeople make because they're told that cold calling is, through people like Grant Cardone. As you mentioned, we've had Jared Grant on the show as well. These individuals, you can cold call anyone, you can hound them. 50 calls is no good. You need to call them 100 times. And this is something that I thought was really relevant then as well, Alex. Why do you only have 4 emails? And then is there a follow-up in 6 months, or do you cut things off? How does that work after that? Because we're told and we're bombarded and we're told on this show all the time, we need 10 follow-up emails with 7 cold calls. And then you like 4 things they've done on Twitter. Then you find their wife and follow them on Instagram if they're hot. And then you do this and that. Is 4 emails enough to get the kind of the low-hanging fruit, to get the potential good customers on board?
Yeah, 100%. It's a different type of sale. So if you're selling to car dealerships, or you're selling to restaurants or any of these local businesses, sure, keep hounding them. If you're selling to, like we do, the director of marketing at like Wall Street Journal or something, you're not going to, if you send them 500 emails, they're just never going to talk to you. You send them 4 emails, and then if it's a test of 50 sends, one of those, those 4 emails might not even work. So when you go back in 3 months, you go back in 6 months, the emails will look completely different, or you'll find the title was wrong and you'll send to a different person. Because if all 3 of those variables are correct, unless the person's completely swamped, they will get back, right? If you're selling something they need and it's the right person and it's the right type of company, they'd be stupid not to respond to you. So it's like, if you can't communicate that as a business, that's on you. And I wouldn't keep sending that wrong message to them 100 times.
And is that the mindset that we should have as salespeople? Because that essentially eliminates rejection. The way you just described this, if we all thought that way, it eliminates rejection from an email or cold calling or whatever it is. If we know that we've got the right person, the right message, we're selling them something useful, we shouldn't be ashamed of picking up the phone, right? We should be excited for it.
Well, dude, all right. So you sell ads for the show, right? Have you ever found a brand that's like perfectly aligned? They're like advertising on other Salesman podcasts. Like they know the type of show you are. They know the type of audience. Like those guys would love to buy from you if you pitch yourself the right way. But then you call somebody like let's say you call like a blender company or like something that's completely outside of you. You're gonna have to explain yourself so much more. So yeah, you want customers that want to buy from you. And if you know they need what you offer and they're not buying from you still, that just means that you're not communicating it correctly. And yeah, hounding them over and over again is not going to help that. What you need to do is take a step back, figure out what you're doing wrong, and then approach them in like 3 or 6 months.
Perfect. What do we do when we get a reply? And we've never covered this on the show from how many hundreds of hours of content we put out now. What do we do when we get a reply which is we're with a competitor, we're not happy with them, and we are happy with them, or something along those lines of they've read the email, which hurdle number 1, hurrah, we've got over it. They've replied to us, so they're not being rude. There's something in their subconscious that's gone, well, rather than delete it, this might be useful in the future, I will reply. These are all small kind of triggers we can pick up on. So how do you then reply to that individual? Or what's the cadence then on future replies to check in with them perhaps?
Sure. So if somebody replies back, let's say I'm a marketing company I'm pitching and they say like, hey, we're already with, whatever marketing company and we're really happy with them. I'll say, wow, that sounds great. And then maybe, I'll set a reminder to follow back in 6 months. Why would I want, if it really is going well, why would I want to break that? Like even if we could do better, I mean, they'll figure it out. Either their marketing company is going to screw up and then they're going to come back to us, or, they're not. And there's so many companies to work with. It's not really worth being that much of a shark. I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of my answer to that.
Yeah. I like the perspective of now you've got FaceTime with them, that company is going to screw up at some point in the future. Depends how badly they screw up, whether that buyer starts looking at other people, but you're going to be top of the list, right? And perhaps then we start doing the social selling thing, super when we've got nothing else to do. It's low priority of our time. We start doing it. But that's why I see the benefit of that. And I've done this in medical device sales of going one surgeon, no, we're happy with this equipment, this, and this. Something will screw up massively. And because I've put my head in, been polite, not been rude, not followed up with them, not chased them, I'm the person that then gets called as the kind of mature businessman alternative to all the others that are scrapping around and trying to kind of get nursing staff to tell rumors and tell lies. And I had one competitor on my patch pinch a load of our equipment and hide it in another hospital purely to kind of just disrupt what we were doing. Got found out, they were never going to do business in that account ever again. And clearly that spreads around the NHS here in the UK. So yeah, I just thought it was smart and thought it was a kind of an interesting thing. And it's your perspective and mindset, which is probably a thing to dive into in all of this, Alex, of there is enough companies to go around, isn't there? You don't need to be hounding people, especially in the B2B space, to make your number, right?
Okay, so I know I used to sell SaaS as well. I used to sell software. And the problem with selling a software like Yesware, which is like an email sending tool, or Base, which is a CRM, is, there's 1,000 pieces of software that all do the exact same thing. So it's like, you either like me or you don't. If you want to buy it, you buy it. If you don't, whatever. Like, I'll go talk to somebody else. And it's the same with marketing. There are very few marketing companies that do good, but all of us say we're the best. So sometimes, I've been a director of marketing in an agency. I wasted probably $100,000 on just hiring random agencies. It's really a crapshoot. So yeah, it's like, how nice are you on the call, and can you get that base level of competency? Like, can you get that understanding of their needs across to them in whatever little time you have? And then if they need you, they'll come back.
And just to touch on that from a buyer perspective, because we're interested to get both sides of the dynamic here, just for a split second, then we'll push back onto the seller side. But from the buyer side, what do you look for in an email when it first hits your inbox? What does that first line need to say to you to get your attention and to not be just clicked to delete?
Hey, Alex, I loved your YouTube video, dude. So, personally compliment me. As somebody who sends cold emails, it's very easy to see when something is mass sent. If it's like, hey, just came across your LinkedIn profile and really impressed, I'm not going to read, I'm going to delete that. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to get through to me with cold email. But it's also like, if it is a really good, well thought out cold email, I'll buy, but I'm also not the right person to be targeting, right? Because I run cold email, like I do cold email all day. So it's like, if you send me a bad email, I'm more likely to tear it down on my YouTube channel than I will to buy anything that you send me or that you're trying to sell me. From a marketing point of view, so when I was director of marketing in an agency, the way that I found an SEO company was I Googled, well, first I wanted a local SEO company. Even though we were in New York, I was like, I feel like somebody in like Bozeman or like Lawrence, Kansas or something will do this super cheap. So I just searched like best SEO Lawrence, Kansas. And there was like a list of 10. And I filled out the contact info on all 10. And then whoever called me first, I worked with like whatever the third guy I think was that called me. So it's like, that's what your buyers are dealing with. If they have budget and they're ready to buy, it's very easy to close them.
Makes total sense. So we're going to go on to YouTube in a second. There's one final thing that I think is important to just touch on, and it might be one kind of company or one software solution answer to this. But how do you track everything that's going on? So you mentioned you use Yesware. I use it as well for kind of outreach emails and different projects that we do. But other than the software to send the emails, what do you do on the back end to track cadence and then I guess report back to clients and other things where all these emails are going and response rates and how to follow up with them in 6 months' time?
So we use a series of Google Sheets, and then we queue. We use Yesware basically for queuing the emails to go out in the future. And then otherwise, it's Google Sheets that track like response rates or that track number of emails sent. It's just a series of columns. We're not getting too fancy with it.
And I'm the same. I don't use a CRM software. And I think you've got a YouTube video that describes your process, right? And how you track them and conversion rates, I think.
Oh, multiple. Yeah. If you want to go to, or the listeners want to go to b2bsalestraining.org, it's all of our most helpful videos. And all of our videos, the reason why they resonate maybe this gets us to the next part of the interview or not, but it's like, I just go inside our company and show like what would be in a paid course usually. Just kind of like, yeah, here's exactly what we're doing. Here's the exact files we use to track. Here's the exact contract our lawyer wrote. Just take it, you know?
So what a transition. I'm clapping you there, Alex.
Woo! That's stand-up comedy, dude. That's 114 mics.
Mate, how the hell do we drive leads from YouTube? Give us the inside scoop on this.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a really long process. And you've been doing this for a while too. How long have you been making YouTube videos?
YouTube videos probably 2.5 years, but the podcast has now been running kind of 3.5 years or so. I was too scared to be on camera at the beginning of all this.
A lot of people are. Yeah, I was doing the same for like 2.5 years. But I was making YouTube videos before. It's just like me kind of vlogging my journey. It really took off when I started doing specific teardowns of companies. So for instance, there was this agency called Fueled, who later became a client of ours. They're an agency in New York. I think they're like 100 people now. They're crushing it. They're amazing. But we took their site and I made this video that was like how Fueled's site compares to VaynerMedia. Or actually, I think it was even more clickbait. It was like why Fueled doesn't get enterprise customers. And it was like a comparison of VaynerMedia's site that gets a bunch of enterprise customers and Fueled's site. And it was like a 6 or 7 minute video. And I emailed it to the CEO over there. But I also published it live on our YouTube channel. And he got back and they became a client of ours. So it's stuff like that. And then that video, I think, ended up with like 8,000 or 9,000 views. So, I mean, if Fueled got value from it, everyone else would too. And it was basically a series of these. This is where we started. It was like a series of these small case studies where it's like, here's a company called Softon, and here's how I would improve their website. And then here's like the 4 marketing channels that I would do it on. Like basically live teardowns, kind of how I would, basically what I would charge a $10,000 for, I was just doing for free in these YouTube videos. I also generated a lot of the money early on. It was not generating a lot of views. What generated views was doing pop culture teardowns. Like we did this teardown of how Deadmau5 markets himself, and he tweeted that out, which is amazing because he said I was spot on with the marketing, you know, which is great. He's a DJ. And we did like one on Joe Rogan, stuff like that. That drew a lot of subs, but didn't really make that much money for us. I think it actually did help though in the YouTube algorithm. And then recently what's been crushing it, we still have this series called Cold Email Teardowns, which is us taking shitty cold emails that I'm getting and rewriting them for people live. And then that used to be an unedited, like 11-minute video. And then I started crunching that down to like 3-4 minutes of actionable content. That's the one. Every time I do one of those, we'll get leads every time. Usually dozens of leads, but it depends on the video.
For context now, for someone who's in B2B sales, we can use Sam the Shark, who's on the desk here now. He sells.
You gotta get him a partner. That's a fighting fish, right?
He sells. Yeah, that's probably not the. We don't want like Peter or the SPCA on the back of the show. Might make a viral video, but probably won't do the brand any good. He sells CRM software. How could Sam the Sales Shark kind of put together YouTube content to promote, or not even promote, because it doesn't necessarily want to be the face of the brand, perhaps, because he wants to take this YouTube channel to different places when he goes to different companies, maybe. I don't know, maybe it's a personal branding thing. Perhaps you can distill some of this down for us. But how could he get potential CRM enterprise customer leads from YouTube content or video content in general?
So our YouTube channel is called Alex Berman. We've gone through 3 companies now, right? I was at Dom and Tom in New York, where I was director of marketing. Then Inspire Beats, which was another company that kind of crashed and burned. And then this company, and it's been pivoted. And I haven't changed the YouTube channel name. Like, it's just Alex Berman. So I would say personal branding is really the way to go. And if you're selling a CRM and you're a sales guy, you're in like the best situation possible, because all you have to do is talk about sales. Like, hey, I was going through this deal the other day, and then we went, you don't have to say their name, obviously, but just anonymize it. Like, I was going through this deal the other day, and like, here's the process we took. Like, here are the follow-ups we used. And all of those follow-ups could be using your CRM, but they don't have to be. Like, literally, however you do sales, if you use your own product, that's YouTube video.
That makes sense when you put it as simple as that, right? But how do we get creative from that? And that might be a process of hiring someone like you to brainstorm on these things. But is there? I guess that's the question. Is there a structure, or do you have a methodology of producing video content so you can do it regularly, or do you have a notebook that you write down, and when something pops into your mind in the shower, you scribble it down?
Sure. So right now, Thursday mornings, I do an hour of finding video ideas. So like basically I have two types of videos, Monday and Wednesday, which they used to be different types of videos. Now they're just kind of me riffing on whatever. So I'll just list out video ideas in a couple bullet points. And then Fridays are the best of the podcast. So my marketing director, Ronaldo, will listen to our podcast episodes and kind of bold, interesting parts. And so I'll talk about what I learned from that part of the podcast episode and then do like 3 minutes on that. Then I'll send all that stuff to our video editor, Ruben. He does videos for like $60 a video. I think you can get it even cheaper. And like I show him PewDiePie videos and stuff too. So it's like, I try to have that comedic edge to it. So it's not just the same like boring business content over and over again. But in terms of if you were starting and you wanted to create YouTube content, what I would do is think about not questions customers ask you, but questions you've asked yourself that you've come up with an answer to. Because it's like, we've all struggled with random stuff, especially when it comes to sales. So like, let's say you're selling the CRM. Maybe one of the things you have asked yourself is like, what's the correct amount of times to follow up? Or like, how do you follow up with a customer? You've answered this for yourself. So the video would then be step-by-step how we follow up with customers, or step-by-step how I follow up with customers. And then you're running through each of these emails, like blur out the customer names. They'll probably not see the video. It doesn't really matter, like, whatever. And show the actual emails that you're using. Deliver as much value as possible to basically your past self is what I try to see it as. How can I deliver as much value to my past self, and how can I create as interesting a story for my future self as possible?
And final bit on this, because this might be and there might not be a simple answer to this. This might be the most difficult part of all, perhaps. How do you go, or how does one go from having a great video? I really enjoyed the Joe Rogan one. I think it was you were dissecting how he asks great questions. Clearly, as a podcaster, I loved it. You got a big old thumbs up from me on that one. But from a video like that, or perhaps a more business-oriented video, how does that lead to a inbound conversation with someone? And again, for context for the audience, or Sam the Shark here, do we need to have a homepage? Do we need to be having email addresses in the kind of YouTube descriptions or on Facebook or wherever? How do we get that attention and someone goes, oh, this dude might be great for my business? How do we transcribe that into a phone call?
So for all of our videos in the description, we have two giveaways. One is, like I said, that contract that our lawyers wrote. It cost us $1,000 to put together, and I do like experiment 27/contract, and people can download that. Then they're on our email list where they're hard pitched. I don't deliver any value in the emails. So if you sign up, you're just going to get sold to constantly, James Altucher style. And then the other one is the client questions that we ask. So discovery, or basically experiment27.com/discovery goes to all the client questions. And then some of our videos will have downloads too. But it's pushing them towards that and then just hard selling them. And if you guys want to sign up to any of those, you can see our drips. It's two different ones. One sells on one-on-one coaching, and then one sells on agency marketing, depending on what your revenue is. And there's a little quiz there. But that's all too complex. Like the Joe Rogan video I just made for views and subscribers. Because the way YouTube works is, as soon as you hit 10,000 subs, and I was talking to some of my friends who have like over 100,000 subs, they all said the same thing. They're like, as soon as you hit 1,000 subs, you get one organic bump when it comes to YouTube. So you're promoted on a certain level. Then as soon as you get 10,000 subs, you get another bump where YouTube just like shouts you out everywhere. So the Joe Rogan video, the Dead Mouse video, all that was to get me up to 10,000 subscribers. And I've seen the same thing. We used to get most of our traffic from just like organic stuff, or like Reddit or anything like that. But now most of our traffic comes from YouTube search, recommended, like at all of those YouTube ones and Google organic. And it wasn't really till we hit 10,000 subs that started happening. So that's really what the Joe Rogan play is. It's more playing for numbers rather than playing for actual leads.
And before we get ahead of ourselves and the audience think they need 1 million subscribers to make this work, and we talk about you in a second, but for me, we've got about 14,000 subscribers, and I've done multiple 6-figure deals now on sponsorships, on kind of the traffic generation and email list stuff that we do on the back end of this with some of the biggest companies, the biggest company and a couple of the other biggest companies within the sales industry and the sales space, based on our both video content and then the production quality of the video content. Simple as that. People have got in contact with us. No opt-ins, no kind of bait, no email lists, none of that. They've seen the video. It's been in the feed, as you described down the side then. It's been shared through the YouTube algorithm. and they've gone, oh, this guy is doing interesting stuff. We'll just have a chat with him, see what we can do. And as I said, I've done multiple 6-figure deals on the back of that. And for context for yourself, Alex, you're about 16,000 subscribers, is that correct?
Yeah, something like that.
So we're not talking about 4 million. We're not talking about PewDiePie. We're not talking about, I don't know, Gary Vee, if he's got a couple of million on there at the moment. It's kind of 5, 10, 15, 16,000 is enough to do crazy amounts of business, right?
We built basically our entire agency. I think we closed, it was like 400,000 in revenue, basically yearly revenue, ARR, with under 1,000 YouTube subs. So it does, yeah, the number of subs is not correlated to the amount of money you're making at all, especially in B2B. I like the subscriber number just because I like to feel, I like to feel popular. I like to go to places and be like, hey, you got 16,000 subs. But otherwise, no, it has no bearing on the amount of money they're making at all.
Yeah, I like to look at our friend Victor Antonio's channel and get depressed on the growth and the speed that he's going at all of a sudden. Well, not all of a sudden.
Dude,
I love
Antonio
it for 6-7 years now.
He's got the 100,000 subs, but it's also like the Hollywood dream because he hosts a show on Spike TV. And he told me they found him just by Googling like sales trainers. And then they just picked his video and like gave him a TV hosting job.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to buy some fake subscribers, I think.
No, I wouldn't do that. Okay, so buying fake subscribers is another big thing. Like I know a lot of people are tempted there. I would definitely not recommend it. It's very clear, and I can't call out exactly who it is, but there's a few people in the business space where you see they have 500,000 subs, then you look at their videos and they get like maybe 1,000 views each. It's so obvious to anyone who knows what they're doing, and it makes you look like a clown. It hurts your brand more. It's much better to have a realistic thing. So it's like I have 16,000 subs in the B2B space. There's a lot of burnout. Maybe I get 300, 400, 500 views a video.
Makes sense.
That's realistic.
And that's what kind of we get as well. Similar kind of numbers. So good.
Yeah,
We're on
every
the same.
Once in a while, something will hit. I just had Owen Video, who's another YouTuber. I think he's got like 36,000 subs, and his are the same. Like 1,000 subs or 1,000 views, 2,000 views, whatever. But yeah, in B2B, there's a thing called Burnout, which is like basically for you and me. A lot of people will sub because they want business content or sales content, and then they'll get a job at like a Starbucks or something, or they'll just give up. So they'll stay sub to the channel, but they're just not into whatever we're talking about anymore.
Yeah, well, hopefully the audience aren't starting B2B sales and going to Starbucks, because I feel like I've not done my job very well there. But yeah, the burnout is real.
I don't know where they,
we like the entertainment, don't we? That's what we need in YouTube, more so than just straight business content most of the time.
Well, the way I think about any sort of content creation is you're not making it for whoever's listening. You're making it for yourself. And if you're not getting value from it, there's no reason to do it. Like there's another big name podcast that I'm not going to name, another big entrepreneur. And when you listen to his stuff, he's extremely burned out. Like he does not want to be on this podcast because he's already made a business. So he's talking about basic stuff. And the audience feels that. And even if his viewership go up, he hates himself more. So yeah, I try to think about my future self. Like what would my future self, or if I have kids, if I want my kids to hear my voice, right? What do I want them to hear? And then also my past self, like what was he struggling with and what can I help him with?
Well, that is probably the best way for the audience to get started with this. I appreciate that, Alex. And with that, mate, we've covered a couple of links, which we'll include in the show notes. But is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Anything else I want to share with the audience? So we've got free courses at experiment27.com. If you click free courses up there, it's just collections of our YouTube videos, but they're set up in good playlists. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks for having me.
Good, man. Well, we'll link to all that in the show notes to this episode over at salesman.org. And with that, Alex, I want to thank you again for joining us on the Salesman Podcast.
Thanks, Will.